Hello, everybody, and welcome to Friday. We're just ending on our second week of being in the self-isolation type of world here, and I wanted to give an update on what's happening within the real estate market, how different brokerages, specifically my brokerage, is dealing with the further restrictions, and what's happened within the real estate market here, mostly in East York, Riverdale, Leslieville, Beaches sort of area that we talked about last time. Again, if anybody has any questions about their specific market areas, I'm happy to talk about that, and I can pull out the statistics of what's happening in those areas as well. Pretty much for anywhere in the GTA. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm just going to jump right in, and I'm going to take a look at the statistics and what's happened in the market in the last little bit. I'm just going to share my screen here with you guys, and we'll jump right into that part. So the first thing that I've done here, the same as last week, is I drew out the map for that same area. And we take a look here. We've had 23 sales in the last 7 days in this specific area. And then just in terms of anything that's new on the market, you can also see that at the moment we're dealing with quite a few new properties that are on the market, 69 new properties that are either haven't sold from last week or the weeks before, or have recently come on the market. And I will say that most of these properties that you're seeing here have just recently come on the market. So, we're still looking at a relatively strong spring market despite all of the issues around social distancing and not being able to do open houses and all that sort of stuff that goes along with COVID-19. So here we are, 69 properties, and last week, like we said, last week, 24 have sold in the last 7 days also, which is a pretty good number. When we look at the sort of the weeks that we've compared to start with, so these were the first 2 weeks that we looked at. This was the first week of March and the second week of March. And you can see that we went from that first week, 17 properties being sold for an average price of just under 1.2 million. Then we went to 28 properties sold, 1.265. So this is now, we can compare last week to this week directly. And you'll see that just slightly fewer homes sold, and the home price was just slightly less. But again, the days on market is worth taking a look at. You can see that our numbers are still between 1 and 7 days on market. So the properties are still selling quickly, and the prices really have not been that greatly affected. We're looking at probably about a $40,000 price difference in the downward direction over the last week, which, using my statistics lingo, that's, it's a pretty standard sort of deviation. It just could, one big sale might move that difference. Okay, so we can see that the market is remaining relatively strong through this. There are some statistics that were shown here. These were shared, and I think that they're of value to take a look at. You can see here the month over month for showings in the GTA. So when we first came into this sort of situation at the beginning of the month, we were seeing a 5.1% change in the negative direction for the number of showings. However, since then, we saw the overall showings in the GTA drop really significantly since all of the sort of heavy news of this all came in. The showings dropped really significantly, and then the next box over, this one here, you'll see that's the offer registration statistics. So almost a 50% drop in the GTA for registered offers on properties. So it doesn't necessarily mean that properties aren't selling, but what it does mean is that there are fewer offers on those properties. Some won't sell, but in properties where we were seeing many multiple offers, like 10 or more, we might only be seeing 3 or 4. So it's a pretty good indication that the market is being affected by this in terms of how many people are out there actively looking in the spring market. The last thing that I wanted to talk about, and this is something that's been brought up by a couple of different clients, is just what is happening in terms of protecting the consumer or the sellers, the buyers, the general public from spreading this disease through lack of social distancing. So I will say that there's been a couple of different things that have gone on. This is my assistant Jonas here. He's here for the day, helping out with the YouTube web video here. Welcome, Jonas. He's got nothing to say. I do just want to say that our brokerage specifically is taking some pretty good moves to be able to protect the public. The first thing is that we're not doing open houses. This is strictly forbidden by our brokerage. It's frowned upon. It's within our group. It's not really. It's something that is like a name and shame. That people just aren't doing them. So that's number one. Number two, for properties that are marketed, there are a number of precautions. So if I go to book a showing on our site, this is what would show up. It would be a COVID-19 safety precautions. And so by pressing agree, I'm confirming to the best of my knowledge that I'm not going to be spreading this disease around. I'm not going to be bringing in people that have traveled recently or been exposed to the disease. And so we're getting people to understand the severity of this particular situation and understand that it's not business as usual. So no open houses and extra precautions being taken on showings. In addition to that, some condo buildings, and here's a list of some condo buildings, 14 of them in the downtown area, that are prohibiting any showings in the building at all. So they don't want anybody coming in and spreading it to their residents. They don't. Some of these places could potentially become hotspots for infection. So these buildings have said no more, which I think is a reasonable sort of expectation. The last thing that I want to cover is, in particular, I want to talk about how my clients are responding to this particular disease, the spread of the disease, and the implications to the real estate market. I have a couple of listings at the moment, and I've got many buyers who are out, who would normally be out looking in the market. And so I just want to say that there are ways to do this safely, or as safely as possible. And I've been asking listing agents and the sellers of places that I have interested clients to actually shoot a FaceTime video of the space and allow us to be able to get a sense of what the house or the condo is like before we risk getting in the car and going and seeing these properties. There are people who are in a stressed situation where housing being a necessity, that they need to solve this particular problem. And it is my job to help them solve these housing problems and present them with the best possible options as safely as possible. So we've been really using video a lot to not just get a sense of the property, but also to show the property to prospective clients. I've got a client in particular who, we did a video tour and ended up buying the property sight unseen, with a condition on going in and seeing the property prior to close, before, not prior to close, but in the next 7 days at a time that's safe for everybody involved. So there are some precautions and some things that we're putting in place to make sure that the general public and our consumers, our clients, are properly protected through this very difficult time. If anybody has any questions about the real estate market as it's turning, specifically for your area, if you're interested in taking a look at maybe how I think that your property might be affected by this, I'm happy to have that conversation. The one thing I will say is that real estate is a different sort of asset than, say, the stock market, for example, that it's not as reactive. And we're showing, a very robust and healthy market, all things considered, for the Toronto area. Houses continue to come on the market, houses continue to sell, and houses continue to sell at expected prices. So again, if you've got any questions, reach out to me. You can reach me 416-435-8324, or you can send me a direct email, which I'm very good at responding to. I'm also happy to set up a Zoom call at any time to have a face-to-face chat, which I love, as we're all a little bit isolated at the moment. I'm happy to do that. I hope everybody has a great weekend and enjoys as much as they can some outside time and time with family.